Hello everyone, this is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover. I'm back with another video. I've done a review about this movie a few months back, but I have to admit I was never really happy with that video. And I always wanted to try to see if I could redo it and do it better and fix it. And the movie that I'm talking about, you already know by the title, but the movie I'm talking about is Nurse 3D. And, I've talked about this one, but yeah, I just wasn't really happy with the way that video turned out. So I thought maybe I'd take another crack at it and see if I could do it better this time. And, you know, this movie here, I always thought it was a pretty decent movie. I don't think it's anything great, but I know this movie does get a ton of hate. But I thought it had some interesting ideas. I've said that before, but yeah, just so I thought maybe we could talk about it for a minute. The movie basically, it's the storyline goes like this. Okay, you have this nurse character, and her name is Abby, and she's played by Paz De La Huerta. And in the movie, she's a nurse, and she has this thing. She's a serial killer, and her target is usually like people who cheat on their loved ones, men who cheat on their wives, boyfriends cheat on their girlfriends, girlfriends cheat on their boyfriends, wives cheat on their husbands, whatever. And that's usually her main target. And so anyway, and the way she dispatches of her victims is she uses basically like the tools of her skills, which is nursing. So, but anyway, to get into it, all right, we start off with our main character here. We got Abby, who, like I said, is played by Paz de la Huerta, who's right there. And, obviously she's very sexy. She's very beautiful. Paz de la Huerta, people will remember her from, horror fans will remember her from the movie The Editor. And the main thing she's really known for, she was on the series Boardwalk Empire. But she plays Abby, and she's working in this hospital, and in this hospital they kind of wear the old fashioned like nurses uniforms with the little paper hats and stuff like that. And like I said, her, she has this thing, she cannot stand cheaters. That is, just something she cannot abide by. And whenever she sees, like, she's gone out to clubs and she's like scoping out victims, and she sees like a man who, is basically, like he's trying to hide his wedding ring, but then, he's hitting on other girls. So she takes him out and she ends up killing him, and things like that. And we kind of get an idea that, okay, this is who she is and this is what her, methods of killing are. And then we see that there's a graduating class, and that there's this young girl named Danny, who's played by Katrina Bowden, who everybody remembers from Tucker and Dale versus Evil. And Abby ends up becoming something of a mentor towards Danny's character. And when she becomes a mentor towards her character, she decides that she's actually beginning to get feelings for Danny, who here's Katrina Bowden right here. And but it turns out that that even though Danny doesn't mind being friends with Abby, she's not really interested in her that way. So and what Abby ends up actually doing is she devises a plan to take Danny out for a night to party and celebrate because she graduated, she got her nursing license and stuff like that. And she's on the job, and the main doctor is played by Judd Nelson. We all remember from the Breakfast Club and everything. And he's getting on her case, but he's also kind of sexually harassing her, which obviously is going to pretty much make him a pretty good victim for Abby later in the movie. But for now, Abby is just more concerned about trying to get on Danny's good side, and so she takes her out, and they go to a club, and she's mixes in some pills with her drinks and stuff, and she starts getting out of control, and they end up having this wild night of kinky sex, and it's so it's like it's implied that Danny here, she not only ends up having sex with Abby, but she ends up having sex with another guy in the club, despite the fact that Abby does have a boyfriend who is played by Corbin Blue, who everybody remembers him from High School Musical and stuff like that. So playing a pretty different kind of role here, but So anyway, so she wakes up in the morning and she kind of realizes that, yeah, what happened last night was pretty much not a good idea, and that she realized like she let herself get too out of control. And you realize like the thing about Danny's character, she always wants to pretty much feel like she's in control of the situation, and she's always kind of got a grasp on things. And but she tells so Abby is like trying to be her friend and really trying to be comforting and loving towards her, but Danny's pretty much kind of refusing her. Telling her like yeah, I think the next time we hang out, instead of anything like that again, I think we should just do girl stuff, like go out and go shopping or something like that. And so um Danny kind of starts to you know kind of distance herself away from Abby. And meanwhile Abby is trying to be friends with her. At one point it seems like she's getting pretty close to her, and then she meets Abby's stepfather, played by Martin Donovan. We find out that Abby and her stepfather do not get along because Danny knows that she knows that her stepfather, even though he's married to her mother, he's out cheating and all this other kind of stuff. Which, of course, that's perfect for Abby because Abby's thing is she loves to kill cheaters. And so basically, Abby decides she's going to put herself out there as bait to lure this guy in, and she does. And she injects him with I forgot what it's called, but basically he's pretty much paralyzed. He's aware of what's going on and he can feel and stuff like that, but he's paralyzed. He can't do anything about it, even if he wanted to. And so she ends up letting his car run into a semi, and he gets killed and things like that. And so at first, Abby thinks she's done a great thing for Danny, and that Danny's going to turn to her, and that she's going to let you know Danny's going to let her comfort her, and end up taking care of her and stuff like that. And it almost seems like it's going to go that way, but then we realize that Danny's still got a boyfriend, and that's something of an obstacle for Abby. And so Abby's just she's really just not very happy with the situation, and she starts plotting, and she starts doing these things to go against Abby to make her look crazy, and to make and ultimately she ends up revealing to everybody that her and Danny her and Danny had sex, and that she had sex with this guy in the club and everything else. And that so yeah, that the boyfriend is doubting her, and he's not really so he's kind of pissed off at her, and things are taking a bad turn, and she's like trying to get people to listen to her, and she starts to uncover a little bit more about Abby, about who she was. And then we realize that when Abby was a little girl, that her mother caught her father cheating and everything else, and ended up the father got killed because of it. And it was just that Abby cannot stand people who cheat, and that's just the way she is. And but the thing is now we bring in a detective who's investigating what happened to Abby's stepfather, or Danny's stepfather, sorry. And so basically Abby is kind of seducing him and everything else, and kind of getting him to think that Danny's more responsible for the stepfather's death than anybody else. And basically making Danny here look like a liar, and like she's got a lot to hide, where Abby has nothing to hide. And I should also point out too, it's kind of important that we know that Abby does have like a neighbor who's very enamored with her. He's got a huge crush on her, and he's a nice guy and everything else, but he just she's just that's kind of the thing. Abby doesn't really like tease him or anything like that. She's nice to him, but she's not like overly friendly to him. So you got to kind of give her that, I guess, at least. But as the movie goes on, it's like Danny's trying to figure out what's going on with Abby. Abby's becoming even more enraged because basically all she wanted was for Danny to love her and to care about her. And at one point, spoilers, but Abby comes across Judd Nelson's character, and she's pretty much fed up with his bullshit too, and so she decides she's going to end up offing him. And And it's done in a very, interesting way. Like I said, her being a nurse, she uses the tools and the skills that she has to dispatch of her victims and things like that. And so anyway, so we're getting into the third act, and then you know, basically there's this confrontation between Abby and Danny, and they get to the hospital, and pretty much it goes bombastic, balls out. There's um, uh, Danny is like trying to tell Abby, it's okay, we can be friends. I do care about you, and all this other kind of stuff. And Abby is like, oh, now you care about me. It's like that's all I ever wanted was for you to care about me, but no, you rejected me and everything else, and now this is it. You got to pay the price for this and everything. So you got like Danny and her boyfriend. They're trying to stop Abby from killing everybody, and that's where the 3D really comes into play. I mean, you got some of the 3D working throughout the rest of the movie, but you could tell. I mean, like the 3D really goes into full swing in the finale. You see like blood flying everywhere. You see like scalpels and shit flying all over the place and everything else. And so yeah, just oh man, it's just kind of all over the place. There's blood, there's gore, everything else. So um, I forgot to mention though too that at one point in the movie there is this character that emerges that she comes in, and she's kind of like, we all know somebody like this in our workplace, that she's like very super chipper type, and she always got a smile, always greeting everybody. She's always like bright and perky, where everybody else is just kind of agitated and irritated, and just kind of like, oh come on man, nobody could be that damn happy. But like her thing is she's going around, she's telling everybody hello, good morning, and she's like putting little smiley face stickers on everybody and stuff like that. And it's revealed that basically Abby ends up befriending this character and ends up basically murdering her. And so anyway, so like I said, spoilers, but at the end of the movie, we find out that technically Abby gets away with it, and Danny and her boyfriend, they're kind of starting to mend fences a little bit. And but basically, what ends up happening is Abby ends up taking on the personality, or she ends up taking, yeah, the personality and the character of this lady that she murdered, who is like little Miss Chipper, little Miss Happy, and all this other kind of stuff. And ultimately, she she works in a new hospital now. She's like an administrator and all this, and that's pretty much where the movie ends. Okay, so that's pretty much where the movie ended. And now the thing is, though, it's like Paz De La Huerta here. The thing is that there were a couple of things that bothered me about this movie, and I stated in my previous video. The first thing being that I always thought it was, you know, you look at Paz De La Huerta here. Here's the problem: her voice is very distinct sounding. Her look obviously is very distinct looking, and the idea that she could just basically become this kind of master of disguise and basically just you know blend in and switch her switch her appearance and just kind of take another person's identity. That's a little bit hard to swallow because, like I said, if it was that was the thing. If Katrina Bowden had played the main character, like I said before, it would have made sense because she could change her hair color. She could get contacts, change her eyes. Things like the eye color, things like that, and she would have blended in a lot more easily than Abby's character would have. But like I said, the problem is you have this woman who's she's very tall, very leggy. Like I said, you can see by looking at her, her face is a very distinct looking look to it. It's not, I mean, she's not ugly by any means, but it's just, she does have a very distinct look about her. And her voice is very distinct sounding. So it's like, that's going to be kind of hard to, that's going to be kind of hard for her to cover up. And she's, like I said, she's not a master of disguise, and she's not a master of changing her voice either. She can't just sit there and just drop an accent and pick up another one. She's going to be too easy to spot. So it's like when police will be looking for her, then, yeah, she's not going to be that hard to find. Whereas like Katrina Bowden, like I said, her character, because of her look, she is a little bit more, just not plain looking, but, like I said, she could just do one or two things to change her appearance and she would be completely, people would be none the wiser. And But like I said, overall, I don't mind this movie. I know it gets a lot of hate. I know a lot of people are not, very big fans of this movie. But ultimately, what I have to say about it is simply this: it's just, the thing. I said it before in my previous video. I think the thing about this movie is that it would have worked better if they divided it instead of trying to put too much into one. That's the way I feel about it. Is they put too much into one movie. you know, you have this female serial killer who, one, she's a nurse and she kills people using the tools of her trade and using, her skills as a nurse to, kill her victims and cover it up and things like that. See, that could be its own movie right there. You could have just done a movie like that and there you go. And you could have easily made this movie like, she's a nurse and she sees herself as someone who's merciful towards her victims. She could like, because that's real life. There have been stories of nurses who murder their patients, and they feel that they're doing their patients a service by doing this and everything else. And like she could be like I said, yeah, like Judd Nelson's character in here, he's sexually harassing the nurses and things like that. She easily could have dispatched of him, saying she's taking on like the sexist bosses and everything else that she works with and everything else. So I mean, you could have made a movie just on that alone. But then you got her character too. Her main thing is she likes to kill people who cheat. That could be another movie in and of itself. You easily could have made a movie about a female serial killer who, she didn't like, she experienced like abuse and things like that when she was little, and her, father cheated on her mom or something. The dad died, and so she grew up, psychologically scarred from this, and she grows up and becomes a murderer, and that's her. That's just like her thing. She can't stand people who cheat on each other, whether it's men or women or whatever. So it's like that could have easily been its own movie in and of itself. But overall, though, I just think this movie. It's like I said, it's very bombastic. It's I think it's stuffed a little too full, and they could have simplified it, and they could have easily made this a different kind of movie. But and that was the thing. I think a lot of people really do question the casting of Paz De La Huerta here, and I don't know if it's for the reason like I said, because like I said, that she looks so distinct there. Like I said, she's not ugly or anything like that. It's just she's so distinct looking that when she tries to hide or she tries to cover her appearance or anything like that, it doesn't work. But I do know, I have heard though that she's gone on record saying like she doesn't like the movie, that uh, she she just kind of really spoke out against the movie. She hated it. She not happy with the experience. Well, one incident I saw, there was like an outtake where her and Katrina Bowden, they're walking outside of a hospital and she gets clipped by a ambulance. She nearly gets run over. So it's like, well, yeah, I mean, if she didn't like the experience, like, you can't blame her for that. But overall, I mean, just, yeah, she didn't care for it. And I don't know, maybe they could have gotten somebody, I don't know. But I wonder if like maybe because she was on Boardwalk Empire, I don't know if that's why they went for her. But yeah, so anyway, I just think that this movie, if they kind of like I said, just break up the idea of, the female serial killers, you could have done two movies out of that instead of one. And you could have you might have been able to create two iconic female serial killers, slashers for movies and things like that. You easily could have done that. But yeah, I think that most of the cast does a good job. Katrina Bowden, I've always liked her, and not just because she's gorgeous. I do think she's a good actress. I really enjoyed her in Tucker and Dale versus Evil and other stuff I've seen her in. Um, yeah, Judd Nelson. It's always fun to see him in a movie. Yeah, I just think this movie kind of went just a little too overboard, and a little bit of restraint would have worked for this. And like I said, I mean, it was kind of cool that they wanted that the climax be this kind of all out, like, blood and gore fest and stuff like that. But still, it's like, yeah, it was just, I think it was just a little too much for that. But anyway, though, no, overall, I don't mind this movie. I can sit and watch it from time to time. It's cool. I don't mind it too much. I've seen a lot worse movies, but I know this movie does get a ton of hate. That's why I was bringing it up. So anyway, yeah, I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up. I think I've said what I wanted to say. I think I've done it better than I did my first video. So hopefully that's about it. So yeah, we talked about Nurse 3D. So um, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling on now. If anybody took the time to watch this video, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I hope I did a better job this time than I did the first time, and I hope you honestly enjoyed the video. If you did, I really appreciate if you like and subscribe. I do weekly reviews. I do shelf by shelf of my collection. I do haul videos, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it would really mean a lot to me if you did. So yeah, thank you again for watching. This is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover, and I'll be back with another video. Until then, take care and have a good night.